My wife showed up to my office with her lover, threw her ring at me, and said, "We're done," only to see my coworkers laughing. What a spineless husband you are. Then I handed my wife an envelope and walked away. Quietly canceled every payment, trip, membership, and pulled out my $90 stake in her company. Minutes later, my phone lit up with 124 missed calls, and someone showed up at my door. Look, I've had some rough Thursdays in my life. The time I spilled coffee on a federal judge, that deposition where my fly was down for 45 minutes. But this was a Thursday that would go down in infamy, like Pearl Harbor, but with more passive-aggressive Slack messages. I'm sitting at my desk at Morrison and Cross LLP, feeling like $1 million, or at least the 450 others my suit cost at Nordstrom Rack. I've got my third espresso working through my veins like liquid confidence, and I'm crushing this acquisition contract like it owes me money. The morning sun is doing that thing where it makes the Manhattan skyline look like a screensaver, and honestly, I'm vibing. Then the elevator dings. Not like a normal elevator ding. This was the kind of ding that makes dogs bark 3 states away. The kind of ding that says, "Buckle up, Buttercup, your life is about to become a reality show." The doors slide open and out walks Mara, my wife of 7 years, the woman who promised to love me through sickness and health and my questionable karaoke choices. She's wearing this dress that's so red it probably needed a permit, and her heels are clicking on the marble floor like a countdown to detonation. But wait, there's more. Because walking beside her, holding her hand like they're in a Nicholas Sparks movie that nobody asked for, is Elliot Graves. Elliot. Freaking Graves. This guy, and I cannot stress this enough, is the human equivalent of a LinkedIn humble brag. You know the type. Just closed another 8-figure deal while running a marathon backwards and saving 3 orphans. Blessed, grateful. Always success mindset. His handshake feels like he's auditioning for a grip strength competition, and he smells like he bathes in cologne that costs more than my car payment. The entire office, and I mean the entire open concept, glass-walled, privacy is a myth workspace, goes silent. Even Karen from accounting, who literally never stops talking about her Pomeranian's Instagram account, shuts up. Mara walks straight up to my desk. No hesitation. No pre-game warm-up. She reaches into her Hermes bag, which, fun fact, I bought her for our anniversary, pulls out her wedding ring, and, I kid you not, tosses it across my desk like she's trying to land it in a solo cup at a frat party. The ring skitters across my quarterly reports, bounces off my stapler, and lands on the floor with this tiny tink sound that might as well have been a gunshot. "We're done," she says. That's it. 2 words. We're done. Like I'm a Netflix subscription she's canceling. Like 7 years of marriage can be summarized in the same amount of syllables it takes to order a Big Mac. The office collectively inhales. I can literally hear Susan from 2 cubicles over whisper gasping into her phone. Someone's Apple Watch probably just sent them a heart rate alert. Elliot's standing there with this smile that makes me want to understand why people commit crimes of passion. He's got his hand on the small of Mara's back, like he's claiming territory, like he's a flag on the freaking moon. And then, my coworker Gary, who still owes me $20 from fantasy football, by the way, stage whispers loud enough for the entire floor to hear. "Man, what a spineless husband." Thanks, Gary. Real solid. Next time you need help with a motion to dismiss, maybe ask Siri. The thing is, I could have screamed. I could have thrown something. I could have gone full Jerry Springer and started a screaming match that would have ended up on TMZ with the headline, "Lawyer loses it, throws stapler at homewrecker." But here's what I learned from 7 years of dealing with Mara's mood swings and passive aggression. Silence is scarier than noise. Calm is more unsettling than chaos. So I smiled. Not a fake smile. Not a "I'm fine, really" smile. I smiled like I knew something they didn't. Like I was holding pocket aces, and they were sitting there with a pair of threes, talking about how they were going to clean up. I reached into my desk drawer, the locked one, the one where I keep the important stuff, and pulled out a brown envelope. Not fancy, just your standard 9x12 manila situation. But what was inside? That was the good stuff. I stood up, buttoned my jacket because even in chaos, we maintained standards, and handed it to Mara. "You might want to read this before your next performance review," I said, my voice so even it could have been a yoga instructor's. Her perfectly microbladed eyebrows furrowed. Elliot's smile flickered like a dying light bulb. The office was so quiet I could hear the HVAC system and someone's stomach growling. Mara opened the envelope. I watched her eyes scan the first page, then the second. The color drained from her face like someone pulled a plug. Partnership Dissolution Agreement, Section 12.7. The clause I'd written into our business arrangement 3 years ago when I'd invested in her startup. The clause she'd probably never read because she trusted me. The clause that said if there was ever a breach of fiduciary duty, and yeah, sleeping with your business partner while married definitely counts, I could withdraw my entire investment. All $90 million of it, with interest. Elliot grabbed the papers. His eyes went wide, his tan, probably spray-on, let's be honest, somehow looked less convincing. This, you can't, this isn't, he sputtered like a broken garbage disposal. Oh, I can? Dude, I said, still smiling. It's all very legal, very binding. You can check with your lawyers. Oh, wait, I'm a lawyer. So let me save you the hourly rate. You're screwed. Mara's mouth opened and closed like a fish that just realized the bowl was actually a frying pan. Liam, you wouldn't I? I tilted my head. You just ended our marriage in my office during business hours with the guy you've apparently been auditioning for my replacement in front of my colleagues while wearing the dress I bought you. So yeah, Mara, I absolutely would. The elevator dinged again. This time it was Sandra, the office manager, holding a box of my personal items. I texted her 5 minutes before Mara showed up because, plot twist, I'd known this was coming. See, here's a fun story. 2 weeks ago, I hired a private investigator. Not because I'm paranoid, but because Mara had started doing this thing where she'd smile at her phone like it was telling her jokes. Where she'd work late but come home smelling like Elliot's stupid cologne. Where she'd stopped asking about my day and started asking about my plans for the future. The PI sent me photos, videos, text messages that would make a romance novelist blush and a therapist rich. So I'd prepared. Because if she wanted drama, I was going to give her a whole Broadway production. I picked up the box from Sandra, nodded at Mara and Elliot, and walked to the elevator. Every eye in the office followed me like I was carrying the Stanley Cup. Just before the doors closed, I turned back. Oh, and Elliot, that investment property you two were planning to buy in the Hamptons? Yeah, I own the mortgage company. Enjoy your weekend. The doors slid shut on their matching expressions of horror. As the elevator descended, I could hear the office explode into conversation. Phones were definitely coming out. This was going to be on the company's Slack within 30 seconds, guaranteed. But me? I was heading home to pour myself a drink, sit in my study, and do what I do best: read contracts and ruin people's lives legally. Because Gary was wrong, I wasn't spineless. I was strategic, and that's way more dangerous. The Uber ride home was probably the most expensive therapy session I've ever had, and I didn't even have to talk. Just me, a driver named Hassan who had excellent taste in lo-fi hip-hop, and the Manhattan skyline sliding past like the world's most expensive screensaver. Hassan gave me a look in the rearview mirror, that universal "you good, bro" expression, and I just nodded. What was I going to say? Yeah, man. My wife just nuked our marriage in front of my coworkers, but I've got a revenge plan that would make Machiavelli slow clap. That's not really first Uber ride conversation material. When I got to my building, this converted warehouse in Tribeca that costs more per month than most people's kidneys are worth, Marcus the doorman took one look at me and said, "Rough day, Mr. Hayes." You could say that, Marcus. Want me to tell the next 50 people who show up here that you moved to Bali? Make it 100, and you've got a deal. He grinned. Marcus is good people. Last Christmas, I gave him Knicks tickets, and he gave me a bottle of bourbon that probably fell off a truck, but in the best way possible. That's respect. The elevator ride up to the penthouse? Yeah, penthouse. Because apparently I have terrible financial decision-making skills when I'm in love. Felt like ascending into a museum of my mistakes. Every floor that passed was another year of my marriage I'd never get back. The doors opened directly into the apartment because we're fancy like that, and I was immediately assaulted by Mara's entire aesthetic philosophy. The walls were covered in abstract art that looked like someone had sneezed paint onto canvas while having a seizure. $12,000 pieces that were supposed to speak to the soul, but mostly just screamed, "I have more money than sense." There was this one painting, I'm not kidding. that was literally just a red dot on a white canvas, and Mara had spent 15 grand on it because the artist was emerging. The furniture was what I call Instagram industrial, all reclaimed driftwood and concrete, like we were cosplaying as people who lived in a beachside warehouse. Chairs that looked cool, but felt like sitting on a Puritan's idea of fun. A dining table made from a door that Mara swore had history, which was code for had termites before they sealed it. And the candles. Oh God, the candles everywhere. Like we were preparing for either romance or a seance. I could never tell. They all had names like Coastal Grandmother's Secret and Meditation at Dawn, but mostly smelled like what I imagined disappointment and citrus would smell like if they had a baby. But then, I walked into my study, my sanctuary, my fortress of solitude, my Mara. This is the one room you can't touch space that I'd negotiated like a hostage situation when we moved in. Dark wood, leather chairs that actually supported your spine, bookshelves floor to ceiling, stuffed with legal texts, philosophy books, and a suspicious number of Tom Clancy novels I'm not ashamed of. And in the corner, hidden behind a first edition of Moby Dick that I'd never read but looked impressive as hell, was a wall safe. I poured myself some Glenfiddich, the 18-year, because if you're gonna watch your marriage burn, you might as well do it with good whiskey, 2 fingers, then 4. 'Cause who's counting? Not Mara, that's for damn sure. I opened the safe. Inside was what I called my nuclear option collection. Binders. So many binders. Color-coded, tabbed, and cross-referenced like I was preparing for law school finals and the apocalypse simultaneously. Partnership agreements, investment contracts, equity stakes. Every single financial document related to Mara Enterprises, the boutique consulting firm she'd started 5 years ago with my money, my connections, and apparently my business partner's dick. I pulled out the main binder, read because of course it was red, and flipped to section 12.7. Let me tell you about section 12.7. When Mara first started her company, she needed capital. I had just made partner at the firm and had what my accountant called considerable liquid assets, which is rich person speak for, damn, you got money. She pitched me like I was on Shark Tank, PowerPoint and everything. Think of it as investing in us, she'd said, doing that thing where she touched my arm and looked at me like I was the only person in the world who understood her vision. So I invested $90 million over 3 years. I became a silent partner, which was perfect because I hate talking about feelings anyway. But here's the thing about being a lawyer married to an entrepreneur. You know where all the bodies are buried because you helped dig the graves. I didn't just invest and hope for the best, like some trust fund kid playing business. I wrote the contracts. I built in protections, clauses, exit strategies, because I've seen what happens when love and money have a custody battle, and spoiler alert, it's uglier than a gas station sushi situation. Section 12.7, subsection C, paragraph 4. In the event of a material breach of fiduciary duty, moral turpitude, or actions that compromise the integrity of the partnership, the non-breaching party reserves the right to withdraw all invested capital, including accrued interest and proportional equity appreciation, within 30 business days of written notice. In normal person language, if you screw me over, I can take my money and run, and there's nothing you can do about it. And having an affair with your business partner, that definitely qualified as compromising the integrity of the partnership. I'd written this clause at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday after Mara had spent 3 hours explaining her vision, and I'd spent 3 hours wondering if I was being paranoid or practical. Turns out, practical. Very, very practical. My laptop was already open on the desk. I sat down, cracked my knuckles like I was about to hack into the Pentagon, and pulled up our business accounts. The joint checking account, frozen. The spa membership she loved, $400 a month to sit in hot water and pretend to meditate, canceled. Her Amex Black that I was technically liable for, suspended. The automatic payment to her life coach, who I'm 90% sure just told her to manifest abundance and charge $300 an hour, stopped. Every single thing. Then I opened the big one, the partnership portal, the place where all our official business documents lived in the cloud, probably on a server farm in Iowa or something. I pulled up the withdrawal clause form. It was like looking at the nuclear launch codes, except instead of starting World War III, I was just starting World War divorce. There was a mandatory 3-second delay before the form submitted. Some lawyer's idea of a cooling off period like 3 seconds was going to make me reconsider. 3. I thought about Mara's face when she threw the ring. 2. I thought about Elliot's smug smile. 1. I thought about Gary calling me spineless. Click. Done. Somewhere in the digital ether, algorithms were already working. Bank transfers being initiated, asset freezes being implemented, email notifications being generated to lawyers, accountants, and board members who were about to have a very, very interesting Monday. Elliot's Amex was about to meet Jesus, Buddha, and every deity in between, because that card was tied to company accounts that were tied to my investment that was now being withdrawn faster than you can say fiduciary duty. I leaned back in my chair, took a long sip of whiskey, and smiled. Not because I was happy, not because I was proud, but because for the first time in 2 weeks since I'd gotten those photos from the PI, I felt like I could breathe. Paranoia, it turns out, is just pattern recognition for the romantically inclined. And tonight, paranoia was the best investment I'd ever made. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Lena Cross, Mrs. Hayes' assistant. She's asking to speak with you urgently. I texted back, tell Mrs. Hayes that my office hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. She can schedule an appointment like everyone else. Then I blocked the number, poured myself another drink, and queued up the saddest Spotify playlist I could find. Because if you're going to destroy your wife's company, you might as well do it with a soundtrack. Saturday morning hit different. You know that feeling when you wake up and for about 3 seconds everything's normal? Then reality comes crashing in like the Kool-Aid man through a wall? Yeah, that happened. Except this time, reality was wearing a suit and carrying a briefcase full of consequences. I rolled over and checked my phone. 7:42 a.m., 124 missed calls, 124. My phone had basically become a tiny rectangle of panic. The call log read like a greatest hits of people whose weekends I'd just ruined. Mara, 47 calls. Elliot, 31 calls. Unknown numbers, probably lawyers, 38 calls. My gym, 1 call. Membership payment due, canceled that too. Sorry, Planet Fitness. My mom, 3 calls. She somehow already knew, which means Mara called her, which means this was about to get extremely Italian family complicated. Gary from work, 4 calls. Probably to apologize for the spineless comment, or to ask for gossip, 50-50 odds. The voicemails were even better. I put them on speaker while making coffee because why not start the day with chaos and caffeine? Voicemail number 1. Mara, 11:47 p.m. Friday. Liam, what the hell did you do? My accounts are frozen. Frozen. Do you know what that means? I can't even buy coffee. Coffee, Liam. Call me back right now or I swear to beep. Voicemail number 2. Elliot, 12:03 a.m. Saturday. Hayes, this is completely unprofessional. We need to discuss this like adults. The board is panicking. Investors are calling. You can't just beep. Voicemail number 3. Mara, 12:47, 11 a.m. You're being childish. This is childish. We can work this out. Just call me, please. Oh, now we're at please. Interesting character development. Voicemail number 8. My mom, 2:13 a.m. Leonardo Giancarlo Hayes, your wife called me crying at 2 in the morning. I don't know what happened, but you call me back and explain yourself, young man. Yes, my full name is Leonardo Giancarlo Hayes. My mom had a thing for Da Vinci, and my dad had a thing for making me sound like a Renaissance painter. I go by Liam because I'm not a monster. I deleted all the voicemails without listening to the rest. If it was important, they'd text. And if they texted, I'd ignore those too. Because I'm an emotionally evolved millennial who processes trauma through avoidance and memes. The coffee maker beeped, this fancy Italian espresso machine that cost more than a used Honda, and made coffee that tasted like God's morning routine. I poured myself a double shot and sat down at my laptop. Time to see what kind of financial havoc I'd wreaked. I logged into the partnership portal, and oh boy, the dashboard was lit up like a Christmas tree having an anxiety attack. Account status, withdrawal in progress. Amount, $90,000 interest accrued. 8,347,81 on equity. Adjustment, $12,500. Total withdrawal, 110,191. Estimated completion, 72 hours, $110 million with an M. The kind of money that makes you understand why people commit crimes and also why they hire therapists. But it got better. The cascade effect had already started: company payroll account, insufficient funds, quarterly tax payment, bounced, office lease payment, declined, Elliot's corporate Amex, maxed and frozen, vendor payments, all failed. Mara Enterprises was basically a Jenga tower, and I just pulled out every bottom block simultaneously. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Hayes, this is Lena Cross, Mrs. Hayes' executive assistant. I'm standing outside your building. I have an urgent message from the board of directors. Please, it's important. I looked at the security camera feed on my laptop. Sure enough, there was a young woman in the lobby, looking like she'd been crying or hadn't slept, or both. She was clutching a manila envelope like it was a life preserver, and she was drowning in corporate chaos. I felt a tiny bit bad. Lena was innocent in all this. She was just trying to do her job, and her job had suddenly become manage the fallout of a divorce that went nuclear. I texted back, "Give me 5 minutes." I threw on jeans and a Columbia sweatshirt, because if I was going to destroy lives, I was going to do it comfortably, and headed downstairs. Lena looked like she was about 25, maybe 26, fresh out of business school, probably. When she had that "I optimized my LinkedIn profile, and now I'm having a crisis" energy. "Mr. Hayes," she started, her voice shaking slightly. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but..." "It's fine, Lena. Coffee?" I gestured to the building's cafe. I... Yes, thank you." We sat at a corner table. I ordered her a latte and me another espresso because apparently I was trying to speedrun heart palpitations. She slid the envelope across the table. "This is from the board. They're asking to negotiate terms. They're willing to..." "Willing to what? Give me my money back slower? Apologize for sleeping with my wife?" I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter that basically said, "Please don't destroy us. Here's a payment plan." I pulled out my own envelope from my backpack because, yes, I'd prepared one. Because I'm that guy now. "Give them this," I said, sliding it across the table. Lena looked terrified to touch it like it might explode. "What is it?" "My terms, non-negotiable. They want to play hardball with lawyers? Fine. But they're playing in my court now, and I wrote the rule book." Inside my envelope, 1. Full withdrawal of investment plus interest, $110.8 million or 2. Mara's immediate resignation as CEO. 3. Elliot's removal from the board. 4. Public statement acknowledging breach of fiduciary duty. 5. All personal assets acquired during marriage, aka everything, to be audited. 6. And just for fun, a formal apology letter, notarized, admitting fault. Lena read the first page and went pale. "Mr. Hayes, this would bankrupt the company. Should have thought about that before the affair, huh?" I don't know what to say. "Say you'll deliver it. And Lena, this isn't personal. You seem nice. Update your resume. You're gonna need it." She left looking like she'd just witnessed a mob hit, which honestly wasn't far off. I went back upstairs, opened my laptop, and did something truly diabolical. I scheduled automatic social media posts. Nothing identifying, nothing illegal, just thought-provoking. Twitter scheduled for Monday 9 a.m. Interesting how partnerships work until someone forgets what partner means. Instagram scheduled for Monday noon. Sometimes the best investment you can make is knowing when to pull out. We're talking stocks, obviously. LinkedIn scheduled for Monday. 5 p.m. Reminder, always read section 12.7 of your contracts. You never know when you'll need it. Business lessons, due diligence. Petty? Absolutely. Effective? We'd find out. Legal? Technically yes, and technically yes is the best kind of yes. My phone rang. Mara, again. I stared at it, thought about answering, thought about screaming, thought about crying. Instead, I sent it to voicemail and opened my delivery app. If I was going to financially annihilate my ex-wife's company, I was going to need tacos. Good ones, with extra guac, because revenge is a dish best served with adequate carbohydrates. Sunday morning came at me like a hangover I didn't earn. All disorientation and regret, Except I was stone cold sober, and the only thing I regretted was not doing this sooner. My phone had basically become a weapon of mass notification. Every time it buzzed, which was approximately every 45 seconds, I half expected it to just give up and burst into flames like a Samsung Galaxy circa 2016. The count was now at 267 missed calls. 267. That's not communication, that's harassment with a cellular plan. But the voicemails? The voicemails had evolved. We'd gone through the 5 stages of grief. Speed run edition. Stage 1. Denial. Friday night. This is a mistake. You made a mistake. Call me back so we can fix this. Stage 2. Anger. Saturday morning. You bastard. You absolute bastard. How dare you? Stage 3 of bargaining. Saturday afternoon. Okay, listen. We can work something out. What if I give you back the Hamptons house? Would that help? Stage 4. Depression. Saturday night. I can't believe you're doing this after everything we built together. Stage 5, acceptance. Sunday, 3 a.m. Fine, fine. What do you want? I was on my second cup of coffee, this Ethiopian blend that costs $40 a pound because apparently I'm the kind of person who drinks his feelings in expensive beans when my Apple Watch buzzed. Text from Marcus, doorman. Mr. Hayes, there's a young woman here. Says her name is Lena Cross. Says it's urgent. Want me to tell her you're in Bali? I smiled. Marcus remembered. Me. Nah, send her up. She's cool. Marcus. You sure? She looks stressed. Like student loans and pandemic and taxes all due tomorrow stressed. Me. That's just her vibe now. Send her up. 3 minutes later, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Lena looking like she'd aged 5 years in 48 hours. Her hair was in a messy bun that wasn't the cute Instagram kind. More like the I've been up for 36 hours managing a corporate apocalypse kind. She was clutching a leather portfolio and a venti Starbucks that was probably her 4th of the morning. Mr. Hayes, I'm so sorry to show up unannounced. Lena, it's fine. Come in. You want real coffee? That Starbucks looks like it's been through some trauma. She looked down at her cup like she'd forgotten she was holding it. Yes, thank you. Real coffee sounds amazing. I led her to the kitchen, this open concept situation with marble countertops and appliances that looked like they belonged in a spaceship. Mara had designed it to look minimalist chic, which meant it cost a fortune and had nowhere to put anything. I made Lena a proper espresso while she stood there awkwardly, looking around like she was afraid to touch anything. You can sit, I said, gesturing to the bar stools. I promise the furniture doesn't bite. It's pretentious, but harmless. She let out a tiny laugh, the kind that sounds like relief escaping. Your place is... wow. Yeah, my ex-wife had opinions. Strong ones. See that painting? I pointed to the red dot on white canvas situation. $15,000. It's literally a dot, a single dot. I could have bought a used car, but no, we needed emerging art. Lena snorted into her coffee. Mrs. Hayes has particular taste. That's the nicest way anyone's ever said terrible judgment. Thank you. She smiled, then seemed to remember why she was there. The smile did. Mr. Hayes, I have a message from the board. I figured. That's why you're here on a Sunday looking like you've seen the face of corporate death. She pulled out a thick envelope from her portfolio. Not manila this time. Fancy cream-colored paper with the Mara Enterprises logo embossed on it. Someone had spent money on this presentation, which was ironic considering they were about to run out of money entirely. I opened it. Inside was a letter, professionally formatted, probably drafted by 6 lawyers and approved by a crisis management team. Urgent response to withdrawal notice. Dear Mr. Hayes, the Board of Directors of Mara Enterprises respectfully requests an immediate meeting to discuss the terms of your withdrawal notice, dated November 1st, 2025. We acknowledge the situation has caused considerable distress to all parties involved. However, we believe a mutually beneficial resolution can be reached that addresses your concerns, while preserving the company's viability and the livelihoods of our 200-plus employees. We are prepared to offer the following initial concessions. Immediate removal of Mr. Elliot Graves from all executive positions. A structured payment plan for the withdrawal amount over 24 months. Increased equity stake in future ventures. Public acknowledgement of the contractual obligations. We respectfully request a face-to-face meeting at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, The Board of Directors, Mara Enterprises. I read it twice. Then I folded it up and set it on the counter. Lena, can I be honest with you? She nodded, looking terrified. This letter is corporate speak for please don't kill us. The payment plan? That's code for we don't actually have your money because we spent it on office renovations and business class flights to conferences in Cabo. The equity stake? Worthless if the company goes under, which it will without my investment. The public acknowledgement? Vague enough to be meaningless. Lena's face confirmed what I already knew. I, I'm just delivering the message. I know, and I appreciate it. You're good at your job, which is why I'm about to do you a favor. I pulled out my own envelope. Yes, another one, because I'm apparently running a one-man stationery distribution service now. What's this? She asked. This is my counteroffer. It's not pretty, it's not kind, but it's fair, which is more than they deserve. She took the envelope like it was evidence in a murder trial. Should I open it? You can read the summary page. The rest is for the lawyers. She pulled out the first page. Her eyes went wide. Final terms. Non-negotiable, effective immediately. 1. Full investment withdrawal. 147,291 within 72 hours per original contract. 2. Mara Hayes. Resignation as CEO, no severance, no stock options, and Elliot Graves. Removal from board, all stock options voided. Public statement of breach of duty. Company assets audit. Full forensic accounting of all expenditures over past 3 years. 5. Personal assets division. All marital property acquired during marriage, subject to review. 6. Non-compete clause. Mara Hayes and Elliot Graves prohibited from starting competing ventures for 5 years. 7. Public statement. Full disclosure of reason for partnership dissolution. 8. Legal fees, all costs borne by Mara Enterprises. Failure to comply will result in immediate lawsuit for fraud and breach of fiduciary duty, criminal referral for potential embezzlement investigation, public disclosure of all findings to investors and media. You have 48 hours to respond. Lena looked up at me, her face pale. Mr. Hayes, this would destroy them. Yes, the employees will find new jobs. Good ones, hopefully. And Lena, you should start looking too. I'm serious. You're talented, organized, and you showed up on a Sunday to deliver bad news. That's exactly the kind of person who lands on their feet. She bit her lip. Can I ask you something? Shoot. Did you love her, Mrs. Hayes? I poured myself another espresso, looked out the window at the Manhattan skyline, thought about 7 years of marriage, of inside jokes and vacation photos, and the way Mara used to steal my hoodies and look adorable doing it. Yeah, I said finally. I did. Right up until I didn't. What changed? She threw her wedding ring at me in my office and called me spineless by proxy. I turned back to Lena. But honestly, it changed before that. It changed when she stopped seeing me as a partner and started seeing me as a bank account with a heartbeat. Lena nodded slowly. I'm sorry this happened to you. Don't be, I'm not. And weirdly, I meant it. The truth is, Lena, I spent 7 years trying to be enough for someone who was never going to be satisfied. I made myself smaller so she could feel bigger. I funded her dreams while putting mine on hold. And you know what the worst part is? I would have kept doing it forever if she hadn't forced my hand. So this is me choosing myself for once. It's not pretty. It's definitely not mature, but it's honest, and that's more than I can say for the last 2 years of my marriage. She stood up, gathering her things. I'll deliver this to the board. Lena, one more thing, she turned. When this all shakes out, and it will shake out, if you need a recommendation letter, call me. You don't deserve to go down with this ship. Her eyes got a little watery. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Liam, call me Liam. Mr. Hayes makes me feel like my dad, and trust me, neither of us wants that energy. She smiled, a real one this time, and left. I watched from the window as she exited the building, got into an Uber, and disappeared into Sunday traffic. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Unknown. This is Richard Chen, lead counsel for Mara Enterprises. We need to schedule a meeting immediately. I texted back. Me. My office, tomorrow 9 a.m. Bring coffee and a better attitude than your client has. Unknown. This is highly irregular. We typically meet on neutral ground. Me. And I typically don't have my marriage imploded in my workplace, but here we are. 9 a.m., my office, Morrison and Cross, LLP, 47th floor. Don't be late. I blocked the number. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I opened Instagram. Mara's latest post was from 2 days ago. A photo of her and Elliot at some charity gala, both of them in formal wear, both of them smiling like they'd invented happiness. The caption read, "Sometimes the best partnerships happen when you least expect them." On Blessed How Our New Beginnings. The comments were interesting at Jessica. "You two are glowing. Power couple alert." At Tech Brodu. "Dave, congrats on the success, Mara. You deserve it." Someone anonymous. "Isn't she married?" That last comment had 47 likes. I scrolled through Elliot's feed. Same gala photo. His caption, "Great things happen when you surround yourself with excellence. Hajash entrepreneur life, Shan success mindset." I commented on his post. At Liam. Taze. Make sure to read your partnership agreements. Section 12.7 is a real page turner. Then I logged off before I could see the fallout. My gym bag was sitting by the door, the gym membership I'd canceled, along with everything else. I looked at it, thought about going for a run, clearing my head, being healthy. Instead, I ordered Thai food, queued up The Big Lebowski on Netflix, and settled in for an evening of pad thai and existential comedy. Because sometimes the most rebellious thing you can do is absolutely nothing. And tomorrow I was going to walk into that conference room and watch lawyers panic in real time. I couldn't wait. Monday morning, I woke up feeling like Bruce Wayne after a really productive night of vigilante justice. Tired, slightly unhinged, but deeply satisfied with my life choices. I put on my best suit. Not the Nordstrom Rack special from last week. No, this was the Tom Ford I'd bought for my first murder trial. The legal kind, not the literal kind, though honestly the line gets blurry in corporate law. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, the kind of suit that says, "I'm about to ruin your entire fiscal quarter and look incredible doing it." Matching it with a burgundy tie because I'm not a psychopath. I have color coordination standards even when committing corporate homicide. I got to Morrison and Cross at 8:30 a.m., which gave me 30 minutes to prep for what was either going to be the most satisfying meeting of my life or a complete disaster that would end with me disbarred and living in my mom's basement eating her disappointment lasagna. 50-50 odds, honestly. My assistant, Patricia, this 65-year-old force of nature who'd been with the firm longer than I'd been alive, took one look at me and said, "You're glowing. Either you're in love or you're about to destroy someone's life." The second one. Good. I never liked that wife of yours. She had small talk energy that felt like a hostage negotiation. Patricia handed me a coffee. Conference room A is set up. The other party arrived 10 minutes ago. They brought 4 lawyers and what I can only describe as concerned rich person vibes. Perfect. "Liam, honey, whatever you're about to do, Patricia, I love you. But if you're about to tell me to take the high road, I need you to know I'm driving in the ditch now. The high road is back there somewhere, probably at the rest stop where my wife threw her wedding ring at me." She smiled. "I was going to say, record everything and don't sign anything without reading it 3 times. This is why you're my favorite person. I'm your only person since your wife left. Don't get sentimental. Conference room A was our biggest, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, a table that could seat 20, and those fancy Herman Miller chairs that cost more than my first car. The firm used it for major negotiations, high-profile mediations, and apparently my personal revenge tour. Inside, sitting on one side of the table like they were about to negotiate a hostage release, were 1. Richard Chen, lead counsel, mid-50s, gray temples, an expression like he'd been sucking on lemons and legal briefs simultaneously. 2 junior lawyers, names I didn't catch because they had "please don't fire me" energy and weren't making eye contact. Some guy in a suit, probably a crisis management consultant or a board member, honestly didn't care. 4. Elliot Graves, looking like he'd aged 10 years over one weekend, his usually perfect hair showing signs of stress-based neglect. Notably absent, Mara. Interesting. I walked in, set down my briefcase, and smiled. "Gentlemen, thanks for coming. Coffee?" Richard stood up. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for meeting with us on such short notice. Let's skip the pleasantries, Richard. You're here because your client screwed up, and I hold the financial detonator. So let's talk terms." I pulled out a document. Thick, bound, tabbed like a PhD thesis on how to legally annihilate someone. Richard's face went pale. Mr. Hayes, we were hoping for a more amicable discussion. Amicable? I laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was the laugh of a man who'd spent 72 hours weaponizing every contract he'd ever written. Your client had an affair with my wife and my investment using my money, and you want amicable? Richard, I don't think we're in amicable territory. We're barely in civil lawsuit territory. We're more in scorched earth territory. Elliot finally spoke. His voice was shaky, trying to maintain that CEO confidence, but failing miserably. Liam, this has gotten out of hand. We can work something out. Oh, now you wanted to work something out? I leaned forward. Where was that energy when you were sleeping with my wife? When you were posting couple photos on Instagram while I was at home, thinking our marriage was just going through a rough patch? We didn't mean for it to happen. Nobody means for anything to happen, Elliot. But it did. And here we are. I opened my document. So let's talk facts. Cold, legal, financial facts. I pulled out a financial summary and slid it across the table. My investment, $90 million over 3 years. Interest accrued at the contractually agreed rate, $8.3 million. Equity appreciation based on the company's valuation, $12.5 million. Total owed, 110, 847, 291. Richard adjusted his glasses. Mr. Hayes, the company doesn't have that kind of liquidity. That's not my problem. That's a you spent my money on office renovations and corporate retreats problem. Section 12.7 is very clear. Withdrawal is due within 72 hours of notice. We're at hour 68. You have 4 hours left. One of the junior lawyers whispered something to Richard. He nodded, then looked at me. We're prepared to offer a structured payment plan, 24 months, quarterly installments. No. 36 months. No. Mr. Hayes, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I slammed my hand on the table. Not hard, just enough to make everyone jump. You know what's unreasonable? Having your marriage nuked in your workplace. Having your coworkers call you spineless. Having your wife's affair partner sit in business meetings and pretend he's a professional. That's unreasonable. Silence. I took a breath, regrouped, went back to cold, and calculated. Here's what's going to happen. You have 4 options, and I'm going to explain each one using small words so everyone can follow along. I pulled out 4 separate documents, laying them out like playing cards. Option 1, the let's pretend we're civilized plan. You wire me the full $110.8 million within 4 hours. Mara resigns as CEO but keeps her stock options. Elliot steps down from the board but maintains his consulting role. You release a bland statement about restructuring. Everyone moves on. The company probably survives. This option expired 3 days ago when Mara decided to make a scene, but I'm including it for completeness. Richard looked hopeful. I crushed that hope immediately. We're not doing option 1. Option 2, the slightly painful but fair plan. You wire me $50 million immediately. The remaining $60.8 million is paid over 12 months with 8% interest. Mara and Elliot both resign. Full public statement acknowledging breach of fiduciary duty. Forensic audit of all company spending over the past 3 years. If the audit finds embezzlement or fraud, I reserve the right to pursue additional damages. Company probably survives, but limps for a while. Elliot leaned forward. We might be able to. We're not doing option 2 either. Now, option 3, the this is gonna hurt plan. I force immediate liquidation of company assets to recover my investment. Company folds within 30 days. All employees laid off. Mara and Elliot both face breach of contract lawsuits. I pursue criminal investigation for potential fraud. Your legal fees alone will bankrupt you both personally. Company dies, but at least it's quick. The room was silent except for the sound of someone's Apple Watch giving them a heart rate warning. Option 4, the let's get creative plan. Everyone perked up slightly. Hope is a dangerous thing in negotiations. I take full control of the company. Mara and Elliot are immediately removed from all positions. I install new management. I restructure everything. I decide who stays and who goes. The company might survive, might thrive, might still fail, but it'll be my choice, not yours. You get nothing except the privilege of not being sued into oblivion. Oh, and I get to rename the company because Mara Enterprises is going to give me an aneurysm. I leaned back. You have 4 hours to pick an option. And gentlemen, I'm rooting for option 4. I've always wanted to run a consulting firm. Richard looked like he was doing complex math in his head, probably calculating how many billable hours this disaster was going to generate. Mr. Hayes, these terms are non-negotiable. I believe I sent that in writing. Did you not get the memo? It was very clear. Used big fonts and everything. The crisis management guy finally spoke. Mr. Hayes, there are 200 employees who depend on this company. Their families are not my responsibility. They're Mara's responsibility. They're Elliot's responsibility. They're the board's responsibility. I was just the bank, and banks don't keep lending when the borrower commits fraud. It wasn't fraud. Breach of fiduciary duty, misuse of partnership funds, failure to disclose conflicts of interest. Call it whatever makes you sleep at night, but legally, it walks, talks, and quacks like fraud. My phone alarm went off. I'd set it for dramatic effect. That's your 4-hour warning, gentlemen. You now have 3 hours and 59 minutes. I suggest you start making calls. Richard stood up. We need to consult with our client, sir. Then consult. My office is down the hall. Patricia will bring you coffee and judgment. And Richard, tell Mara that if she wants to negotiate, she needs to show up herself. I don't do intermediaries for personal matters. They filed out like students who'd just failed a test they didn't study for. Elliot was the last to leave. He paused at the door. Liam, for what it's worth, I am sorry. I looked at him, really looked at him. This guy who'd smiled at me at parties, shaken my hand at business dinners, probably laughed at my jokes while sleeping with my wife. Elliot, the only thing you're sorry about is getting caught. If Mara had been better at hiding it, you'd still be in my office right now, pretending to be my friend. So save your apology. You're going to need it for your bankruptcy attorney. He left. I sat alone in the conference room, looking out at Manhattan. The city stretched out below me, millions of people living their lives, having their own dramas, fighting their own battles. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Patricia, you're either the bravest person I know or the dumbest. Haven't decided which. Me. Can it be both? Patricia. That's what I'm afraid of. I had 3 hours and 57 minutes before they had to give me an answer. I spent it doing what I do best, researching precedent, drafting contingency plans, and eating a really expensive sandwich from the deli downstairs. Because revenge is important, but so is lunch. You can't run a corporate coup on an empty stomach. The answer came at hour 3, minute 47. Richard Chen walked back into my office looking like he'd aged another decade in the span of an afternoon. Behind him, no junior lawyers this time, no crisis management consultant, just Richard and a leather portfolio that probably contained either my victory or my next legal battle. I didn't stand up. Power move? Maybe. Mostly, I was just committed to finishing my coffee. Mr. Hayes, Richard started, his voice carrying that specific exhaustion that comes from dealing with impossible situations and impossible clients. We've reached a decision. Option 4, I asked, because I could read the defeat in his posture. Option 4. I smiled. Not a nice smile. I just legally annexed someone's company smile. Smart choice. Patricia will send you the transfer documents. You have 24 hours to execute them. Tell Mara she's got till Friday to clear her office. Tell Elliot he's got till Thursday because I'm petty and he knows why. Richard nodded slowly. There's one request. I don't do requests. Mrs. Hayes would like to speak with you, privately. She's willing to come here, to your office, to discuss. No. Mr. Hayes, Richard, I just took her company. I'm not giving her closure too. That's not how this works. I stood up, buttoned my jacket. Tell her we'll communicate through lawyers like civilized divorced people. Tell her I hope Portland treats her better than New York did. Tell her, actually, don't tell her anything. We're done. He left. I sat back down and stared at my computer screen, expecting to feel something, triumph, satisfaction, that rush you get when you win something big. Instead, I felt tired. Really, really tired. The kind of tired that comes from running on spite and caffeine for 72 hours straight. My phone rang. Not Mara this time, not Elliot. Not my mom demanding explanations, Professor Helen Wells. I answered, Professor, if you're calling to tell me I've violated some ethical code of conduct, I need you to know I did everything by the book. A book I wrote, but still. Her laugh came through the speaker, warm, knowing, the laugh of someone who'd seen 1,000 law students go from idealistic to cynical and back again. Liam, I'm not calling about ethics. I'm calling because I saw the news. Local attorney performs corporate takeover after messy divorce. Very tasteful coverage. The New York Post is a bastion of journalistic integrity. And I'm the Queen of England. A pause. How are you, really? I sighed. I don't know. I won. I got everything I wanted. The company, the money, the satisfaction of watching them panic. So why do I feel like I just finished a marathon nobody asked me to run? Because revenge is exhausting, Liam. It's satisfying in the moment, but it's not sustainable. You can't build a life on anger. Watch me. I'm serious. You're one of the smartest lawyers I've ever taught. You could do so much more than just whatever this is. This is justice, Professor. This is scorched earth. There's a difference. She paused again. Come have lunch with me tomorrow. There's someone I want you to meet. I'm not really in a meeting new people phase. Her name is Isabella Torres. She runs a legal aid nonprofit in Brooklyn. They do immigrant rights work, eviction defense, the kind of law you used to care about before you went corporate. Professor, one lunch, Liam. If you hate it, you never have to hear from me again. But if you don't show up, I'm telling your mother about the time you plagiarized that torts assignment sophomore year. That was one paragraph, and I cited it later. Lunch, tomorrow, 1 p.m. I'll text you the address. She hung up before I could argue. Professor Wells was the kind of person who could guilt trip you into being a better human while making you think it was your idea. It's a gift, really. The next day, I found myself in Brooklyn, Williamsburg specifically, in a neighborhood where coffee shops outnumbered churches, and everyone looked like they'd just left a photo shoot for urban millennials who own plants. The address Professor Wells sent me was a building that looked like it had seen better days, possibly during the Clinton administration. Paint peeling, windows that probably violated code, and a sign that read, Torres Legal Collective, Justice Not Charity. I walked up 3 flights of stairs that creaked ominously. At the top, there's a door held together by duct tape and determination. I knocked. Come in. A voice, female, accented, maybe Dominican or Puerto Rican. Hard to tell through the door. I walked into organized chaos. Desks everywhere, stacked with files and papers that looked like they'd been organized using the I'll get to it eventually method. Cheap office chairs from IKEA. Computers that were probably old when Obama was in office. Coffee maker that looked like an archaeological artifact. And people, paralegals, volunteer lawyers, clients, all moving with this purposeful energy that you only see in places where the work actually matters. At the center of it all, Isabella Torres. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing jeans and a hoodie that said resist in faded letters. She was on the phone, speaking rapid-fire Spanish, gesturing animatedly at a whiteboard covered in case numbers. She saw me, held up a finger, un momento, and wrapped up her call. Sorry about that. Emergency stay of removal. We won, but it was close. She walked over, extended a hand. Isabella Torres, you must be the lawyer who broke the internet last week. Liam Hayes. I prefer creatively interpreted contract law, but sure. She grinned. It was a real grin, not the polished corporate smile I was used to. Helen said you were smart and insufferable. She was right on both counts. She also said you do good work. We do necessary work. Good is relative. She gestured around. Welcome to the collective. We handle about 500 cases a year with a budget that most law firms spend on office snacks. Coffee? Is it as bad as it looks? Worse, but it's free and it's caffeinated, which is really all you can ask from life. She poured 2 cups from the ancient coffee maker. The coffee was indeed terrible. I drank it anyway because I'm not a monster. So, Isabel said, leaning against the desk, Helen said you just took over your ex-wife's company using a contract clause. That's pretty metal. It was necessary. I'm sure, but now what? What do you mean? I mean, you won. You got your revenge. You're financially set for life, I'm assuming. So what's next? Another corporate merger? More revenge plots? Or are you going to do something that actually matters? I bristled. What I did mattered? To you. It mattered to you. But did it change anything? Did it make anyone's life better? Did it fix a broken system or just redistribute wealth between rich people? Look, I'm not judging. Okay, I'm a little judging. But mostly, I'm curious. Because Helen doesn't send me corporate lawyers unless she thinks they've got potential for redemption. I don't need redemption. Everyone needs redemption, Liam. That's literally the human condition. She pulled out a file folder, opened it. This is Maria, 47 years old, been in the US for 20 years, has 3 kids, all citizens. She's facing deportation because her landlord reported her to IC after she complained about mold in her apartment. We're fighting it, but we're understaffed, underfunded, and running out of time. She pulled out another file. This is James, 73 years old, veteran. Lost his rent-stabilized apartment after his landlord used a legal loophole to evict him. Now he's living in a shelter, and his VA benefits aren't enough to afford anything in the city. Another file. This is the Chen family. Their son got arrested for a crime he didn't commit. They can't afford a good lawyer. The public defender has 200 other cases. He's probably going to take a plea deal for something he didn't do because that's how the system works. She looked at me. These are the cases we handle every single day, with duct tape and coffee and hope. And you know what we need most? Money, resources. Someone who understands corporate law well enough to fight landlords and companies and systems. Why are you telling me this? Because Helen said you used to care. Before you went corporate, before you got rich, she said you wanted to be a public defender, wanted to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. That was a long time ago. Was it? Or did you just get distracted by money and a pretty girl who threw your dreams away along with that wedding ring? Damn, she was good. I looked around the office again, really looked at it. Saw the cracks in the walls and the determination in people's faces. Heard phones ringing with emergencies. Saw files stacked with lives hanging in the balance. What would you do with $15 million? I asked. Isabella nearly spit out her coffee. I'm sorry, what? Hypothetically, if someone gave you 15 million for this place, what would you do with it? She stared at me. Is this a hypothetical or are you actually asking? I'm asking. She set down her coffee, thought for a moment. I'd hire 20 more lawyers, good ones. I'd upgrade our tech so we're not running on computers from the Bush administration. I'd open satellite offices in Queens and the Bronx. I'd start a bail fund. I'd create a fellowship program for law students who want to do this work but can't afford to. She stopped, looked at me. Why are you asking? I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and started filling out a wire transfer form. Because I just took over a company, and I have no idea what to do with it. Because I've spent the last week destroying things, and I'm tired of destruction. Because Professor Wells guilt-tripped me, and she's usually right about these things. I hit submit. 15 million gone, just like that. Isabella's phone buzzed. She looked at it. Her eyes went wide. Liam, did you just... Is this real? It's real. Use it wisely. Don't spend it all on coffee, even though yours desperately needs an upgrade. And Isabella, yeah, I want to help. Not just with money. I want to actually do the work. Pro bono, obviously. I need to remember what it feels like to win something that actually matters. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she smiled, a real, genuine smile that made me feel like maybe I wasn't completely dead inside. Welcome to the collective, Liam. Fair warning, the hours are terrible, the pay is non-existent, and you're going to see things that will keep you up at night. Sounds perfect. Also, you're doing intake interviews today because Martina's called in sick and we're drowning. What? You wanted to help. Here's a clipboard and a list of questions. Room 3. Your first client is waiting. Try not to terrify them with your corporate lawyer energy. She handed me a literal clipboard, like it was 1987 and we'd never heard of iPads, and pushed me toward a door marked Interview Room 3. Inside was a woman who looked about my mom's age, wearing a cleaning company uniform, holding a crumpled tissue and a manila envelope that probably contained her entire legal life. I sat down, looked at the clipboard, looked at her. Hi, I'm Liam. I'm going to help you today. Can you tell me what's going on? And for the first time in a week, I felt like I was doing something that mattered. Not revenge, not destruction, not corporate warfare, just helping. It felt weird, but also kind of good. By Thursday morning, I'd interviewed 12 people, filed 4 emergency motions, and consumed enough terrible coffee to violate several health codes. I'd also slept exactly 4 hours, but weirdly, I felt more awake than I had in years. Turns out spite-fueled revenge gives you energy, but purpose-driven work gives you something better. A reason to get out of bed that isn't, how can I destroy someone today? I was in the middle of drafting an eviction defense motion, sitting at a desk held together by hope and expired warranty stickers, when my phone started blowing up. Not calls this time, notifications, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, even Facebook, which I'd forgotten I had. I opened Twitter first because I'm a millennial, and that's where we go to watch the world burn. My notifications were at 12,000 plus, 12,000. The top tweet, Sarah, legal. This lawyer found out his wife was cheating, so he used a contract clause to take her company, then donated $15 to legal aid. I'm not saying he's Batman, but has anyone seen them in the same room? Child lawyer goals and petty philanthropy. 14,000 retweets, 47,000 likes. The replies were chaos. Tech Bro 147. Imagine cheating on someone and they respond with a hostile takeover and charity. That's not revenge, that's evolution. At Corporate Law 101, I just taught this case to my contracts class. We're calling it Hayes v. Consequences. At random Twitter user, Mara threw the ring. He threw the entire economy, then he threw money at charity. This man is playing 4D chess while we're all playing checkers. Skepticals. Sally. Cool story, but is anyone going to mention that he's still a rich guy playing games with other rich people's money? Fair point, Sally, but let me have this. I scrolled down and someone had made a meme, a screenshot of me, from where I don't even know, with the text, chaotic good lawyer alignment. Another meme, Drake format. Crying about divorce, and Drake disapproving. Corporate takeover plus philanthropy, Drake approving. Instagram was even worse, better. Someone had created an account called @PettyPhilanthropist with my face on it. They'd already posted 3 times. Post 1, when your ex throws away your relationship so you throw away their company. Petty philanthropy. Post 2, revenge is a dish best served with a 501c3 tax deduction. Pona 3, they said money can't buy happiness. They were right, but it can buy justice. And that's better. 8,000 followers already. I wasn't even running the account. LinkedIn, professional, how boring LinkedIn, had transformed into a philosophy debate about business ethics, revenge, and whether I was a hero or a villain. Jennifer Martinez, MBA. Hayes demonstrates that contractual literacy is the ultimate form of protection. This should be required reading in B school. David Patterson, CEO. This is why you read contracts before signing them, and why you don't mix business with pleasure or affairs. Susan Rodriguez, attorney. As satisfying as this is to watch, we should remember that 200 employees nearly lost their jobs because of personal drama. That's not heroic. Also fair, Susan. But the employees didn't lose their jobs because I'm not actually a villain, just someone with excellent lawyers and spite management skills. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered anyway because I'm apparently a glutton for chaos. Liam Hayes? Speaking. This is Marcus Williams from The Atlantic. I'm writing a piece about your story, The Revenge Takeover, When Divorce Meets Corporate Law. Would you be available for an interview? No. It would be very sympathetic to your perspective. Still no. We'd fact-check everything, ensure accuracy. I appreciate the offer, but my answer is no. You can quote me on that. No. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. Is this Liam Hayes, the lawyer from the Mar Enterprises situation? Who's asking? Sheila Grant from Netflix. We're interested in developing your story for a limited series. Succession meets Marriage Story. We think there's real potential. You want to make my divorce into a TV show? Not just your divorce. The corporate intrigue, the legal maneuvering, the philanthropy angle. It's got everything. Love, betrayal, redemption. It's got a hard pass, that's what it's got. Mr. Hayes, we'd compensate you generously. I just gave away $15 million. You think I need your money? Make a documentary about Isabella Torres instead. She's actually interesting. I hung up again. Isabella walked over, holding her phone, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. You're trending. I know, make it stop. Can't stop the internet, Liam. You're a meme now. There's no coming back from that. She showed me her screen. Look, someone made a TikTok reenacting your office confrontation. It has 2 million views. I watched a 20-something kid in a suit dramatically yelling, Section 12.7, while another kid in a red dress threw a plastic ring at him. I hate everything about this. Really? Because I think it's hilarious. Also, our donation page has crashed 3 times today. We've gotten another $200,000 in donations from people who saw the story and wanted to contribute. You've accidentally started a movement. What movement? Petty philanthropy. People are calling it revenge charity. Do something good to spite someone bad. It's like rage cleaning, but for society. My phone buzzed again. A text from Professor Wells. Professor Wells. You made the news, the actual news, not just social media. The Times wants to interview you about business ethics and contract law. I told them you'd do it. Me. You did what? Professor Wells. You're teaching my seminar next week. Contract law and fiduciary duty. The students are already calling it How to Legally Destroy Your Enemies 101. Me. I never agreed to this. Professor Wells. You plagiarized in torts. I still have the evidence. Tuesday, 2 p.m. Wear something professorial. Also, proud of you. The charity thing was good. You're becoming less terrible. Me. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Professor Wells. Don't let it go to your head. I looked up at Isabella. Apparently, I'm teaching law school now. Good. Maybe you can train the next generation of petty philanthropists. We could use more lawyers who know how to weaponize contracts for good. Is that really what I'm doing? Using weapons for good? She sat down on the edge of the desk. Look, was your initial motivation revenge? Yeah, obviously. But you turned it into something else. You took your pain and your anger and your legal knowledge, and you created an opportunity to help people. That's not nothing. It feels weird being called a hero for destroying someone's company. You're not a hero for destroying the company. You're a human being who got hurt and responded in a very human way. But then, and this is the important part, you chose to do something constructive with the aftermath. That's growth. That's learning. That's being an adult, which, let's be honest, most adults still haven't figured out. My phone buzzed. Another text. This time from a number I didn't recognize, but somehow knew exactly who it was, unknown. I saw the news, the donation, the legal aid work. You're doing good things. I'm glad. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you find peace. M. Mara. I stared at the text for a long time, Isabella noticed. Someone important? Someone who used to be. You going to respond? I thought about it, thought about all the things I could say, the anger I could unleash, the forgiveness I could offer, the closure we both probably needed. Instead, I deleted the text and blocked the number. No, I said everything I needed to say in Section 12.7. Isabel nodded. That's very emotionally unhealthy, but also very on brand for you. I contain multitudes. You contain issues, but you're working on them. That's what matters. My laptop dinged. An email from Richard Chen. Subject: Transfer complete. Mr. Hayes, all documents have been executed. You are now the controlling partner of what was formerly Mara Enterprises. Mrs. Hayes and Mr. Graves have vacated the premises. The board has been notified of the change in leadership. As per your instructions, we've prepared the paperwork for the company restructuring and the name change. Please confirm the new name at your earliest convenience. The legal fees for this matter total $487,000. Invoice attached. Sincerely, Richard Chen, escrowing. I opened the name change document. There was a blank line where the new company name would go. I'd been thinking about this all week. What do you name a company you acquired through divorce and spite? Isabella looked over my shoulder. You need a name? Yeah, any ideas? She thought for a moment. What do you want it to represent? I don't know. Something that's not about me. Not about Mara. Something that actually means something. What does the company do? Like, actually do? I pulled up their website. Boutique consulting for nonprofits and social enterprises. Strategy, fundraising, operations. Actually pretty good work when they weren't busy having affairs. Isabella's eyes lit up. Keep it. Keep what it does. But make it about the mission, not the ego. I typed, Forward Collective Consulting. Forward, as in moving forward, collective, because nothing worth doing happens alone. Isabella smiled. I like it. I've grown as a person, but I'm still petty enough to erase my ex-wife's name from everything. That's exactly the vibe I was going for. I sent the name to Richard, paid the invoice, ouch, and closed my laptop. So, Isabella said, you're a business owner now, and a pro bono lawyer, and apparently a meme. How does it feel? Exhausting, weird. Kinda good? I looked around the office. I spent 7 years building a life with someone who didn't want it. Now I'm building, I don't know what this is, but it feels real. It is real and messy and complicated. Welcome to actual human existence. My phone buzzed one more time. Twitter notification. At Petty Philanthropist. New life motto. Be petty. Be charitable. Be legally sound. In that order. 7,000 likes in 10 minutes. I showed Isabella. She laughed so hard she snorted coffee. You know what the best part about this is? She said. What? Somewhere right now, your ex-wife is watching you become a better person and a meme simultaneously. And there's nothing she can do about it, except learn to live with the consequences of her choices. That is pretty satisfying. Also, you're teaching intake interviews tomorrow at 9 a.m. because Martinez is still sick and we're drowning again. What? Welcome to nonprofit work, Liam. The chaos never stops, but at least the coffee is... No, actually, the coffee is still terrible. But we have good people. That's something. I looked at my notifications, still exploding, and then at the intake files stacked on the desk. Real people, real problems, real opportunities to actually help. You know what? I'll take terrible coffee and good people over excellent coffee and terrible people any day. Look at you, learning and growing. Professor Wells would be proud. Professor Wells is making me teach law school while blackmailing me with decade-old plagiarism allegations. That tracks. She's good people too, in her own terrifying way. I grabbed the intake files and a cup of terrible coffee. Somewhere in Manhattan, my ex-wife was dealing with the consequences of her choices. Somewhere in the internet, people were turning my life into memes. Somewhere in Brooklyn, I was about to interview a client and maybe, just maybe, do some actual good. Life was weird, but for the first time in a long time, it was my weird, and that was enough. Tuesday afternoon, I found myself back at Columbia Law School, walking halls I hadn't walked in 12 years, past classrooms where I'd learned to argue like a lawyer and think like a mercenary. The building smelled exactly the same. Old books, fresh coffee, and the faint panic of law students realizing they hadn't read for class. It was nostalgic and horrifying simultaneously. Professor Wells's office was on the fourth floor, same as it had been when I was a student. The door was open. I knocked anyway because I have manners, despite what the internet suggests. Come in, Liam. She was sitting behind her desk, this massive oak thing that probably had its own historical designation, surrounded by books, papers, and what looked like evidence that she'd been grading papers with the energy of someone personally offended by poor legal reasoning. Professor, sit. We need to talk before you face the wolves. The wolves being 50 law students who've been following your story like it's a reality show. Half of them think you're a genius. The other half think you're a cautionary tale. All of them want to know how you did it. I sat. And what do you think? She took off her reading glasses and studied me. I think you're a brilliant lawyer who had a terrible week and responded in the most legally sound, ethically questionable, emotionally complicated way possible. I think you're hurt and angry and trying to pretend you're not by doing good works. I think you're working through trauma by helping others, which is healthier than most coping mechanisms, but still avoidance. And I think you're here because you need to remember why you went to law school in the first place. Wow. Did you prepare that speech or is this your natural setting? I've known you for 12 years, Liam. I wrote you a recommendation letter for your first job. I went to your wedding and thought, this will end badly. I'm not here to blow smoke. I'm here to make sure you don't implode. I'm not imploding. You donated $15 million and took over your ex-wife's company in the same week. That's either the most stable thing you've ever done or a complete breakdown disguised as success. I'm betting on the latter. She wasn't wrong, but I wasn't going to admit that. What do you want me to tell these students? The truth. Tell them what you did, why you did it, what you learned, and most importantly, what you'd do differently. She stood up. But first, there's someone I want you to meet properly. She led me down the hall to a conference room. Inside, a woman was setting up a presentation, mid-40s, wearing a blazer that had seen better days, eyes that suggested she'd been dealing with university bureaucracy and winning. Liam, this is Dr. Camille Rhodes. She teaches ethics and professional responsibility, which I'm sure you remember fondly from your time here. I did not remember it fondly. I'd nearly failed that class because I'd written a paper arguing that corporate lawyers had no ethical obligations beyond their clients, which Dr. Rhodes had called intellectually lazy and morally bankrupt. She'd been right, but I'd been 24 and arrogant. Mr. Hayes, she said, extending her hand, I've been following your case with great interest. As a cautionary tale, as a masterclass in contract law weaponization, your use of Section 12.7 was textbook. Literally. I'm rewriting my curriculum to include it. You're teaching students how to divorce nuke their spouses? I'm teaching students that contracts are tools. They can be used for protection, for justice, or for revenge. The difference isn't in the tool. It's in the intent and the outcome. She pulled up a slide presentation titled Hayes v. Hayes, a case study in fiduciary duty and personal consequences. You made a PowerPoint about my divorce? I made a PowerPoint about the legal framework you used. The divorce is context. Messy, public, meme-worthy context, but still context. Professor Wells smiled. Camille wants to study what you did, not judge it, study it. The legal mechanisms, the ethical implications, the precedent it sets. And I want you to guest lecture, Dr. Rhodes added. Not just for my class, for anyone interested in the intersection of corporate law and personal relationships. We're calling it When Business Gets Personal, Legal Frameworks for Impossible Situations. That's a terrible title. The students are calling it Revenge Law 101. Yours is only marginally better. Fair. Why would I do this? Dr. Rhodes closed her laptop and looked at me directly. Because you're sitting on one of the most interesting legal cases of the decade, and you have a choice. Let it be reduced to memes and tabloid coverage, or use it to actually teach people something valuable. Like what? How to destroy your enemies legally? Like how to protect yourself. Like how to read contracts. Like how to navigate the terrible intersection of love and money. Like how to turn pain into purpose. She pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Inside letters. Dozens of them. Printed emails, actually. These are from students, junior lawyers, and people who read your story. They're asking questions. How do I protect myself financially in a relationship? What should I look for in partnership agreements? Can I really write clauses like Section 12.7? People want to learn from what you did. I read through a few. I'm getting married next year. After reading about the Hayes case, I'm insisting on a prenup. My fiance thinks I don't trust them. How do I explain this isn't about trust? It's about being smart. I'm starting a business with my best friend. After seeing what happened with Mara Enterprises, I'm terrified. What protections should I build in? I'm a 2L and I want to do public interest law, but everyone says there's no money in it. How did you balance corporate work with pro bono? How did you make the switch? Real questions. From real people. Who actually wanted answers? These people think I have answers. I said. You do, and Professor Wells replied. You just use them in the messiest way possible. Now you get to teach people how to use them better. Dr. Rhodes leaned forward. Here's my pitch. You teach one class, 2 hours. We'll fill the auditorium. Trust me, we've already had 200 students sign up, and it's only been announced for an hour. You tell your story, you explain the legal framework, you answer questions, and if it goes well, we make it a regular thing. A semester-long seminar on contracts, relationships, and self-protection. And if it goes badly, then you never have to do it again and we all forget this conversation happened. Professor Wells added, but it won't go badly, because you're good at this. You always were. You just forgot somewhere between making partner and making money. I looked at the letters, at the questions, at the genuine desire people had to learn something from my absolute disaster of a year. When's the class? Dr. Rhodes smiled. Thursday, 4 p.m., Jerome Green Hall, auditorium. We'll have 200 law students, a dozen faculty members, and probably some reporters because the internet exists and hates privacy. Great, no pressure. Oh, there's tons of pressure. But you already handled pressure by conducting a corporate takeover while going through a divorce. A law school lecture should be easy. Should be, narrator voice. It would not be easy. Thursday, 3:45 p.m. I was standing backstage at the Jerome Green Hall Auditorium, wearing my Tom Ford suit, because if I'm going to humiliate myself, I'm doing it with style, drinking water that tasted like anxiety, and questioning every life choice that had led me to this moment. Through the curtain, I could hear the auditorium filling up. Voices, laughter, the rustling of papers, and clicking of laptops. 200 law students, ready to watch me either inspire them or become a viral video about how not to handle public speaking. Dr. Rhodes appeared beside me. You ready? Absolutely not. Good. That means you'll be authentic. Students can smell bullshit from a mile away. Just be honest. What if honest is, I had a breakdown and made a series of legally sound but emotionally questionable decisions? Then that's what you say. Vulnerability is underrated in legal education. Professor Wells joined us. I told them you're not here to be a hero. You're here to be real. So be real. Real is messy. Messy is memorable. Perfect is boring. You've got this. The lights dimmed. Someone, probably a TA getting extra credit, introduced me with a bio that made me sound way more impressive than I felt. And now, please welcome attorney Liam Hayes, managing partner of Forward Collective Consulting and the man behind what some are calling the most interesting contract law case of the decade. I walked out to applause, loud applause, like rock concert level applause, which was weird and uncomfortable and also kind of nice. The auditorium was packed, every seat filled, students sitting in the aisles, faculty in the back, and yes, at least 3 people holding phones up, definitely recording. Great. I stood at the podium, looked out at 200 plus faces, and forgot everything I'd planned to say. So I said the only thing that felt true. Hi, I'm Liam Hayes. 3 weeks ago, my wife threw her wedding ring at me in my office and called me spineless. 2 weeks ago, I legally destroyed her company. 1 week ago, I gave away 15 million and became a meme. Today, I'm here to tell you that I have no idea what I'm doing, but apparently neither does anyone else, so let's figure it out together. The room went silent. Then someone in the back started clapping. Then more people. Then everyone. And just like that, I wasn't nervous anymore. I was just talking to people who wanted to listen. Let me tell you about Section 12.7. I started pulling up the contract on the screen behind me, and how paranoia, good legal drafting, and spite can combine to create the perfect storm of revenge justice. For the next 2 hours, I talked about contracts, about relationships, about what happens when love and money collide, about how to protect yourself without becoming cynical, about mistakes I'd made and lessons I'd learned. The students asked questions, good ones. How do you balance protecting yourself legally with trusting someone emotionally? What's the difference between a prenup and a partnership agreement? Is it ethical to use contracts as weapons? How did you decide to give the money to charity instead of keeping it? I answered honestly. Sometimes I didn't have good answers. Sometimes I said, I don't know, but here's what I'm figuring out. By the end, my voice was hoarse, my suit jacket was off, and I felt like I'd just run a marathon made of vulnerability and legal theory. The applause when I finished was different from the applause when I'd started. Less curiosity, more respect. Dr. Rhodes came on stage. Questions for Mr. Hayes? We have 10 more minutes. Hands shot up everywhere. A student in the front, couldn't have been older than 24, stood up. Mr. Hayes, you said you did this for revenge, but ended up doing good. Do you regret how you handled it? I thought about it, really thought about it. No, and also yes, I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret using the tools I had. I don't regret the outcome. But I do regret that it had to happen at all. I regret that I didn't see it coming sooner. I regret that 200 employees almost lost their jobs because 2 people couldn't keep their personal and professional lives separate. So it's complicated. Most real things are. Another student. Would you do it again? I hope I never have to, but if I did, yeah, probably exactly the same way. Maybe with better coffee. Laughter. Dr. Rhodes wrapped it up. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. This was invaluable. Students, reading for next week is Hayes versus Hayes. I'll post the case materials online. There are case materials? I asked. I compiled them. Contracts, news articles, your Instagram posts. It's all academic record now. My Instagram posts are academic record? Welcome to the digital age. Your memes are now legal scholarship. After the lecture, students swarmed me. Business cards, questions, requests for selfies, which, what? And one student who asked me to sign her contract's textbook. I signed it. Read section 12.7, always, not Liam Hayes. Professor Wells pulled me aside as the crowd finally dispersed. You did good, kid. I talked about my divorce for 2 hours to a room full of strangers. You taught them something real, something they won't get from a textbook. That's worth more than you know. Dr. Rhodes wants me to do this as a regular thing. Are you going to? I looked back at the auditorium, slowly emptying out, students still buzzing with conversation. Yeah, I think I am. Good. The world needs more lawyers who know how to be human. You're getting there. Thanks, I think, she smiled. That was a compliment. Don't ruin it by overthinking. My phone buzzed. A text from Isabella. Isabella, saw the photos from your lecture. You looked very professorial and only slightly dead inside. Progress. Also, we got 3 more clients today who specifically asked for that lawyer from the news. You're a brand now. Deal with it. Me. I hate everything about being a brand, Isabella. Too bad. Brand Liam is bringing in clients and donations. We're keeping him. Also, you're doing intake tomorrow at 9 a.m. because, yes, Martinez is still sick, and we're still drowning. Me. This is volunteer work. I don't have to show up. Isabella. And yet you will, because you're becoming a good person, and it's too late to stop now. She was right. Damn it. 3 weeks after the lecture, my life had settled into something resembling routine. Mornings at Ford Collective Consulting, yes, I kept the company. No, I still don't know what I'm doing with it. Afternoons at Torres Legal Collective, evenings doing intake interviews or prep work, or occasionally remembering to eat something that wasn't takeout. It was exhausting and messy and nothing like my old life. It was also kind of great. Then my phone rang on a Tuesday morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something, instinct, curiosity, or just bad decision making, made me pick up. Liam Hayes. Silence, then, it's me. I knew that voice. 7 years of marriage trains your ear to recognize someone's voice even when they're trying to sound calm and actually sound terrified. Mara, don't hang up, please. I need to talk to you in person, one time. Then I'll leave you alone forever. I should have said no, should have hung up. Should have maintained the boundary I'd built with lawyers and block numbers and sheer stubborn will. Instead, I said, when? Today? Tomorrow? Whenever you have time. I know you're busy. Today, 2 p.m. But not anywhere near my office or my apartment or anywhere I go regularly. Where then? I thought about it. You know that terrible coffee shop in Soho? The one we used to go to when we first started dating? The one with the burnt coffee and the weird art on the walls? Cafe Existential Crisis? That's the one. I thought you hated that place. I do, but it feels appropriate for this conversation. Okay, 2 p.m. I'll be there. She hung up. I stared at my phone for a solid minute, wondering if I'd just made a huge mistake. Isabella walked by my desk. You look like you've seen a ghost. Worse. I just agreed to meet with Mara. She stopped, sat down. Why? I have no idea. Temporary insanity, curiosity, a need for closure that I'm too emotionally stunted to achieve on my own. All valid reasons. You want backup? I can sit at another table and pretend to read while actually monitoring the situation in case she tries to poison you or serve you papers. I appreciate the offer, but I think I need to do this alone. Healthy boundaries. Look at you, growing. She paused. But seriously, be careful. She hurt you. Don't let her hurt you again just because she wants to feel better about herself. That's actually really good advice. I know, I'm full of good advice. Also, you're still doing intake tomorrow at 9 a.m. because Martinez is still sick. I know. I'll be there. At 1:58 p.m., I walked into Cafe Existential Crisis. The place looked exactly the same as it had 7 years ago. Mismatched furniture, art that looked like someone had aggressive feelings about geometric shapes, and coffee that tasted like they'd consulted a sadist for brewing techniques. Mara was already there, sitting at a corner table, wearing jeans and a sweater I didn't recognize. No makeup, or at least less than usual. Hair in a simple ponytail, she looked smaller somehow, like someone had turned down her brightness setting. She saw me, stood up, sat back down, clearly didn't know what to do with her hands. I ordered a black coffee, terrible, as expected, then sat down across from her. Hi, she said. Hi. Silence. The kind of silence that happens between people who used to know everything about each other and now know nothing. Thanks for meeting me, she finally said. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure I would either, but here we are. Here we are. She fidgeted with her coffee cup. You look good. Tired, but good. The beard is new. I'd forgotten I'd stopped shaving regularly. Too busy saving the world, or at least helping a few people in Brooklyn. Yeah, laziness is disguised as style. It works. More silence. Mara, why did you want to meet? She took a breath. I wanted to apologize. Really apologize. Not a text message apology or a voicemail apology or whatever bullshit corporate speak apology my lawyers tried to draft. A real one. Okay. I'm sorry for the affair, for how I told you, for not having the courage to end things properly before I started something with Elliot, for humiliating you at work, for taking you for granted, for treating our marriage like a business arrangement that I could just opt out of when something better came along. She was crying now, not dramatic crying, just quiet tears that she kept wiping away like she was embarrassed by them. I was selfish. I convinced myself that I deserved to be happy and that my happiness was more important than your feelings or our vows or basic human decency. I told myself you wouldn't care that much because you were always working, always busy, always in your own world. But that was bullshit. I knew you'd care. I just didn't want to deal with it. I sipped my terrible coffee, let her talk. When you pulled the investment, I was furious. I thought you were being vindictive and cruel. I told everyone who would listen that you were a monster, that you were destroying people's livelihoods out of spite. She laughed bitterly. But then I actually read Section 12.7, really read it, and I realized you'd written that clause 3 years ago, before anything happened with Elliot. You'd built in protection not because you didn't trust me, but because you were smart enough to know that business and marriage are complicated and sometimes things go wrong. I was hoping I'd never have to use it. I know, and that makes it worse somehow. You hoped for the best, but prepared for the worst, and I didn't prepare for anything. I just assumed everything would work out because I wanted it to. She pulled out a folder from her bag. This is a public statement. My lawyers drafted it, but I rewrote it. No corporate speak. Just the truth. I wanted you to read it before I release it. I took the folder. Inside was a single page. Public statement from Mara Hayes. I am writing to address the circumstances surrounding my departure from Mara Enterprises, now Forward Collective Consulting, and the dissolution of my marriage to Liam Hayes. I engaged in an extramarital relationship with Elliot Graves, a business partner and board member. This was a profound breach of both my marriage vows and my professional obligations. My actions constituted a breach of fiduciary duty as defined in our partnership agreement. My husband's decision to withdraw his investment was not vindictive. It was the legal consequence of my choices, as outlined in contracts I signed and should have honored. I take full responsibility for my actions. I hurt someone I promised to cherish. I jeopardized a company and its employees. I failed to uphold basic standards of integrity. I'm grateful that Mr. Hayes has restructured the company and protected the jobs of our employees. I am grateful that he has chosen to use this painful situation to do meaningful work through his pro bono legal aid efforts. I am now working at an immigration law clinic in Portland, trying to do work that actually matters and hopefully becoming a better person in the process. I apologize to Liam, to our employees, to everyone affected by my poor judgment. I am committed to learning from this and doing better. Sincerely, Mara Hayes. I read it twice, then set it down. This is honest. Too honest? No, actually honest, I looked at her. Why are you releasing this? Because you deserve better than what I gave you. And because the narrative out there is messy, and I want people to know the truth. Not the meme version, not the tabloid version, just what actually happened. You know this will destroy what's left of your reputation, right? This will follow you forever. Every Google search, every background check, every new job interview. I know. She wiped her eyes. But living with the lie is worse. And maybe someone else will read this and think twice before doing what I did. Maybe it'll help someone. I didn't expect that. Didn't expect her to care about anyone else's story beyond her own. How's Portland? Rainy. Humbling. Good for me. She smiled slightly. The clinic is non-profit, so the pay is terrible. I'm living in a studio apartment that costs more than it should but is still cheaper than anything in New York. I work with people who actually need help, not rich people who want to get richer. Sounds familiar. Yeah, I heard about your pro bono work, the donation, the legal aid stuff. She paused. You're doing what you always wanted to do, before you met me, before you went corporate. I went corporate to support your dreams. I know, and I never even thanked you for that. You put your whole life on hold for me, and I didn't even notice. More tears. You were a good husband, Liam. I was a terrible wife, and I'm sorry. This was the moment I could unload, tell her everything I'd been holding in, the hurt, the anger, the betrayal, the humiliation, make her feel as small as she'd made me feel that day in my office. Instead, I said, I forgive you. She looked up, shocked. You, what? I forgive you. No, not because you deserve it, not because I'm over it, but because I'm tired of carrying anger around like luggage. I've got enough to deal with without that. Liam, you don't have to, I know I don't have to, but I want to. For me, not for you. I leaned forward. Here's the thing, Mara. You hurt me. Badly. What you did was cruel and selfish, and I'll probably never fully trust anyone the same way again. But holding on to that anger, it was poisoning me, making me bitter, turning me into someone I didn't like. You took over my company. Yeah, I did. And it felt good in the moment. But the stuff that actually made me feel better, the legal aid work, the teaching, helping people who actually need help, that's what healed me, not revenge. She was full on crying now. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Probably not. But I'm not giving it to you. I'm giving it to me so I can move on, so I can be happy, so I can build a life that isn't defined by what you did to me. Are you happy? I thought about the terrible coffee at Torres Legal Collective, about the law students who actually listened when I taught, about the clients whose lives I was actually helping, about waking up every morning with purpose instead of routine. Yeah, I think I am. Or at least I'm getting there. She nodded. Good. You deserve that. So do you, eventually, but you've got work to do first. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. Not the uncomfortable kind anymore, just silence. Can I ask you something? Mara said. Did you ever love me? Really? Yes, completely. Right up until you threw that ring. I paused. But I loved who I thought you were. Who you pretended to be. I don't know if I ever loved the real you because I don't think you ever showed me the real you. That's fair. She wiped her eyes one more time. What about now? Now I don't love you and I don't hate you. You're just someone I used to know. Someone who taught me some really expensive lessons about trust and contracts and what actually matters. That's the most lawyer answer I've ever heard. I'm a lawyer, it's kind of my thing. She smiled, a real smile. Small, but real. I'm glad you found your thing again. The law school teaching, the pro bono work. That's who you were supposed to be. And you're who you were supposed to be. I'm working on it. One client at a time. One apology at a time. One day at a time. She gathered her things. I'm going to release that statement tomorrow. I wanted you to see it first. If you have edits or if you want me to change anything, it's perfect. Release it. Own it. Move forward. She stood up, extended her hand. Thank you for meeting me and for forgiving me, even though I don't deserve it. I shook her hand. Good luck in Portland, Mara. I mean it. Good luck in Brooklyn. I mean it too. She left. I sat there for another 10 minutes, drinking terrible coffee and staring at the geometric art that still made no sense. My phone buzzed. Isabella. Isabella. How did it go? Do I need to bail you out of jail for assault? Me. It went fine, no assault, just closure. Isabella. Closure is overrated, but I'm glad you got it. You okay? Me. Yeah, actually okay, Isabella. Good. Because we just got an emergency removal case and I need your corporate law brain to untangle some LLC documentation that's holding up a client's immigration status. Me. On my way, Isabella. Also, you're teaching that Columbia seminar again next month. Dr. Rhodes already confirmed it. She didn't ask, she just told me to tell you. Me. That's not how consent works, Isabella. Tell that to Dr. Rhodes. She's terrifying, and I respect that. I left money on the table for the terrible coffee and walked out into the afternoon sunlight. Somewhere in Portland, Mara was probably on her way to help someone with their immigration case, trying to become the person she should have been all along. Somewhere in Manhattan, Elliot was probably dealing with his own consequences, learning his own expensive lessons. And me? I was heading back to Brooklyn to help someone navigate the terrible intersection of corporate documentation and immigration law. Was it closure? Maybe. Was it healing? Probably. Was it perfect? Definitely not. But it was real and honest and mine. And for the first time in months, that felt like enough. 6 months after the office meltdown that broke the internet and my marriage simultaneously, I woke up on a Saturday morning in my Tribeca penthouse and realized something weird. I was happy. Not the fake Instagram happiness. Not the convincing myself everything is fine happiness. Real, actual, uncomplicated happiness. Which was terrifying because I'd spent 6 months waiting for the other shoe to drop. And apparently there were no more shoes. Just me and my choices and the life I'd accidentally built while trying to survive. My phone buzzed, not with missed calls or angry voicemails this time, just normal notifications from normal people living normal lives. Professor Wells, great job with yesterday's seminar. Students are calling it the best class they've taken this semester. You're officially a professor now. Deal with it, Isabella. Reminder, team lunch today at 1 p.m. You're buying because you're still the rich one, tacos or pizza. Also, we hit 500 cases closed this month. We did that. Dr. Rhodes, the Law Review wants to publish your article on fiduciary duty and personal relationships. Congratulations. Also, they want you to speak at the annual ethics conference. I told them yes on your behalf. Mom, saw your picture in the Times, very handsome. When are you bringing someone nice to Sunday dinner? Love you, Mom. I smiled. Actual smile, not the I'm about to destroy someone legally smile. Just happiness. I made coffee, good coffee, from the expensive machine that I'd kept after selling most of Mara's furniture to a consignment shop, and walked to my study. The wall safe was still there. The binders were still there, but I hadn't opened it in 3 months. Didn't need to. The contracts were signed, the company was running, the past was past. On my desk, a stack of files from Torres Legal Collective, client cases, real people with real problems, a woman fighting eviction, a family navigating asylum proceedings, a veteran trying to get his benefits reinstated. Next to that, lecture notes for next week's Columbia class. Advanced contract drafting, protecting yourself without becoming cynical. And next to that, a card, handmade, construction paper and glitter, like a kindergartner made it but with better handwriting. Dear Mr. Hayes, thank you for helping my mom stay in America. You're a real superhero. Sophia, age 7. I'd helped Sophia's mom with an emergency stay of removal. We'd won. The family stayed together. And Sophia had made me a card with a drawing of me in a cape, holding a gavel like Thor's hammer. That card was worth more than every corporate bonus I'd ever received. My laptop dinged. Email from Richard Chen. Subject, Q3 report. Forward Collective Consulting, Mr. Hayes. Attached is the quarterly report for Forward Collective Consulting. Summary. Revenue, 4.2 M. Up 18% from previous quarter. Client satisfaction, 94%. Employee retention, 100%. All former MEC employees chose to stay. Pro bono hours contributed, 1,247. Community partnerships, 12 new nonprofit clients. The company is thriving under your leadership. The rebrand was successful. The mission-driven approach has attracted higher quality clients and media attention. Congratulations. Richard Chen. I'd accidentally built a successful company while trying to destroy one. The universe had a weird sense of humor. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Liam Hayes. Mr. Hayes, this is Jessica Martinez from the MacArthur Foundation. We'd like to discuss a potential fellowship grant for your work combining corporate law expertise with legal aid. I listened. They wanted to give me money, a lot of money, to keep doing exactly what I was already doing. Apparently, petty philanthropy had become innovative legal practice when you did it for 6 months straight without screwing up. I said yes. Because at this point, why not? The universe was clearly on some kind of generosity kick, and I wasn't going to argue. After the call, I opened Twitter. The memes had mostly died down, replaced by new internet drama. Some celebrity had done something stupid, as they do. But occasionally, someone would still post, some law student. Just finished reading Hayes v. Hayes in my contracts class. This man really said, you throw a ring, I throw a company, and I respect that. Random person. Remember when that lawyer took over his ex-wife's company and then became a philanthropist? What a wild ride. Anyway, happy Saturday. I'd become a footnote, a case study, a meme that occasionally resurfaced. And honestly, that was fine. I didn't need to be famous. I just needed to be useful. At 1 p.m., I walked into this taco place in Brooklyn that Isabella had declared the best in New York. Every New Yorker thinks their taco place is the best. This one actually was. The whole Torres Legal Collective team was there. Isabella, Martinez, finally recovered from whatever plague he'd had, 3 paralegals, 2 volunteer lawyers, and Lena. Yes, Lena Cross, Mara's former assistant. After everything imploded, she'd updated her resume like I'd suggested. Applied to 20 places, got offers from 15. Chose Torres Legal Collective because, in her words, I'm tired of working for people who treat employees like disposable commodities. She was good. Really good. Organized, efficient, empathetic. Everything you want in a legal assistant and more. Boss man, Martinez called out, you're late and you're buying, so order up. I'm not your boss. Isabella's your boss. Isabella doesn't have corporate money. You have corporate money. Therefore, you're buying tacos. Fair logic. I ordered enough tacos to feed a small army because the Torres Legal Collective team ate like they were preparing for hibernation. We squeezed into a booth designed for 4 people, somehow fitting 7, which was a fire hazard, but also exactly the kind of chaos that defined nonprofit work. All right, team, Isabella said, pulling out a folder. We have good news and more good news. First good news. We closed 500 cases this month. That's a record. We're actually helping people. Applause. Genuine applause. The kind that happens when people care about what they're doing. Second good news. Thanks to Liam's donation and the MacArthur Fellowship, he just won. How did you already know about that? I got the call an hour ago. I have my sources. She grinned. Thanks to all that, we're opening 2 more offices. Queens next month, Bronx in the spring. We're also hiring 6 more lawyers and doubling our paralegal staff. More applause. Lena was crying happy tears. Martinez was trying not to cry, but failing. Third good news, Isabella continued. Liam's going to be teaching a class at Columbia that's specifically about preparing law students for nonprofit work. Half of the students who take the class will intern here. We're building a pipeline. I am? I asked. You are. Dr. Rhodes emailed me yesterday. She's very bossy and I like her. She's terrifying. Same thing. Martinez raised his water glass. A toast. To Liam, who had the world's messiest divorce and somehow turned it into a nonprofit expansion. Hear, hear. We clinked glasses. Water, soda, one person's horchata. No alcohol because we were all too tired and had too much work to do. Speech, someone called out. No speeches. Speech, speech. I stood up, looked at these people who'd become my team, my friends, my purpose. Okay, fine. 6 months ago, I was standing in my office, watching my marriage implode, thinking my life was over. I was angry and hurt, and I wanted revenge. So I got it. I took over a company, I destroyed some reputations, I became a meme, best meme of 2025. Martinez interjected. Debatable. But then something weird happened. The revenge stopped feeling good. The anger stopped being useful. And I found myself here in this chaotic, beautiful, exhausting place, doing work that actually matters with people who actually care. Oh, he's getting sentimental, Isabella teased. Quick, someone record this before he remembers he's emotionally unavailable. I'm not emotionally unavailable. You literally blocked your ex-wife's number and refused closure for 3 months. I gave her closure eventually, only after she hunted you down like a very polite stalker. Everyone laughed, including me. My point is, I continued, you don't have to have your life figured out. You don't have to have a perfect plan. Sometimes you just have to survive something terrible and then look around and ask, okay, what now? And if you're lucky, really lucky, you find people who help you answer that question. Group hug. Lena announced, because apparently we were that kind of team now. We group hugged in the middle of a taco restaurant, like a bunch of emotionally healthy adults who'd forgotten how to be cynical. It was embarrassing and perfect. That evening, I walked home through Brooklyn as the sun set over Manhattan. The city was doing its thing, millions of people living their lives, fighting their battles, surviving their dramas. I stopped at a newsstand. There, about on the cover of New York Magazine, The Revenge Lawyers, how a new generation is using legal skills for social good. I wasn't on the cover, thank God, but I was mentioned in the article. A sidebar about creative legal approaches to systemic problems. I bought a copy, not for me, for my mom, who would frame it and show it to everyone at church, despite me asking her not to. Back at the penthouse, I made dinner. Actual dinner. Not takeout. I was learning to cook because apparently personal growth includes remembering to feed yourself with real food. The sunset was doing that thing where it turned the city gold. My phone was silent. No emergencies, no crises, just peace. I thought about Mara, probably in Portland right now, helping someone navigate an impossible situation, slowly becoming a better version of herself. I thought about Elliot, no idea where he was, didn't care. He was someone else's problem now. I thought about Section 12.7, the clause that changed everything, the paranoia that paid off, the protection that became a weapon, that became a catalyst. My laptop was open on the coffee table. I had emails to answer, cases to review, lectures to prep. But first, I opened a new document and titled it Lessons from a Hostile Takeover, or How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Weaponize Contracts for Good. Professor Wells had asked me to write something for the Columbia Law Review. This seemed about right. I wrote, 6 months ago, I used a contract clause to destroy my ex-wife's company. It was legal, justified, and deeply satisfying. It was also the beginning of the worst and best period of my life. Here's what I learned. Revenge is easy, forgiveness is hard. Building something new is hardest of all. The law gives us tools, contracts, clauses, frameworks for protection. But tools are neutral. They can be used to harm or to heal, to destroy or to build. I chose destruction first, then I chose construction. I don't regret either choice, but I know which one made me a better person. If you're reading this because you're hurt, angry, or planning your own version of corporate revenge, do it. Protect yourself. Use every legal tool available. But then, and this is important, do something good with what's left. Turn your pain into purpose, your anger into action, your trauma into teaching, because the best revenge isn't destroying someone else's life. It's building a life so good that you forget you ever wanted revenge in the first place. That's the quiet win, and it's the only win that matters. I saved the document, sent it to Professor Wells. She'd edit it, probably tell me I was being too sentimental, then submit it anyway because she was proud of me, even if she'd never say it directly. My phone buzzed. One notification. An Instagram DM from @pettyphilanthropist. Yes, that account still existed. No, I still wasn't running it. @pettyphilanthropist. Hey, we've raised $2 million for legal aid organizations using your story as inspiration. Thought you should know. Keep being petty for good. The internet. I smiled. The best revenge wasn't the money or the memes or the corporate takeover. It was waking up happy in a life that didn't need them. It was helping people who actually needed help. It was teaching students who actually wanted to learn. It was building something real instead of destroying something broken. It was this moment, sitting in my overpriced apartment with terrible abstract art on the walls, eating pasta I'd made myself, watching the sunset over a city full of problems I was slowly learning to solve. Turns out peace is the loudest way to say, I won. And I was winning. Finally.